podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to How Are The Podcast. It's Gav. I'm back in the host chair for the first time in a couple of weeks because of my holidays, but I am back. And we are here today to chat a little bit about this weekend's opponent, Nottingham Forest, because as we know in the Premier League, things are always crazy. It's crazy for us, it's crazy for them, and I thought we'd get a bit of an expert on for a chat to tell us about what's going on their end. And I am joined today, have the pleasure to be joined today by Matt Davies from Forest Focus. Hello, mate.
Hello, thanks for having me on. Are you well?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, we were just chatting before we hit record. You've just instantly regretted your food choices tonight, haven't you? You've just had a Chinese. I'm hoping it hasn't sapped all of the energy out of you to try and get hyped up for this game.
No, if you got me like half an hour later, I think there's a window of a high regret and then just crash out, and I think I'm in regret at the moment.
Yeah, your blood glucose hasn't quite dropped yet. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you're a massive Forest fan. You've been on with us before, I know, but just catch people up on what's been going on with Forest recently. I mean, yeah, you're fighting it out at the bottom there for to stay in the Premier League, but looks like things have taken a bit of an upturn recently. Would that be fair to say?
I think so.
Upturn?
I've done. When someone says to me, and I do a podcast, someone says to me, tell me what's been going on at Forest." Normally, it's like a laundry list of everything, but this is the first time this season where I think I can say, yeah, it's been going all right, and it feels, even though the league table's bad, it feels like a pretty steady ship for once. But yeah, it's been a crazy season. 4 managers, semi-finals of the Europa League, having been, in the Championship for so long. So it's been a real roller coaster, and obviously there's a lot to play for, and there's a lot to be excited about. There's still a fair bit to worry about as well. But I think maybe that's the life of a Forest fan or a Sunderland fan. I don't know.
Well, yeah, we've been talking about that on our pod this week about how, because you're talking about Europe there. We've never qualified for Europe since the 70s, and it's still a very real possibility to us. And one of the last things that Chris asked me on our Q&A episode this week was about whether I thought we'd do it. And I just said, you know what it is, because of the year we've had, it would not surprise you in the slightest if we managed to do it. But I mean, it must be a bit weird for you that, because you're in the semi-finals of the Europa League. Obviously, you've got to play Villa over 2 legs, coming up over the next couple of weeks. But then you've got to balance that out with trying to stay in the Premier League. I mean, does it feel a bit strange, all of that? Like, ordinarily your priorities would be focused solely on staying up, right? But I mean, it's a tantalising prospect being in the semis of a European competition too. So how's that sort of mentally to juggle?
Yeah, it's been a bit weird, really, because it's fantastic to be in Europe. I think Pereira, more than any of the managers, really said the Premier League's the priority. So he's played the squad players a lot more. The funny thing about Europe that we found is the standard is actually pretty low in the group stages, because there's no Champions League clubs dropping down anymore. So if you guys get in the Conference League or the Europa League, I mean, the Champions League is feasible as well, but I don't think there's anything to fear there. So we had some really rough results and terrible performances under Sean Dyche. But we got through, and then we've had a couple of big knockout wins against Fenerbahce and Porto, and now we play Villa. And yeah, the shame is really that if we don't get something from this game, unless Spurs lose to Wolves, then we might still have to sacrifice it to some degree against Villa, which would be a real shame, having been here, waiting to get here for so long. But then we waited so long for the Premier League, and now, you guys appreciate how big it is to be in the Premier League, and we can't afford to get relegated. So yeah, it's been a weird dynamic with Europe, but I'm just hoping that we can really attack it. And then I don't think we'll beat Villa, if I'm honest. They're a good side, but there's no pressure on us. And our players do rise to the occasion when they're the underdog. So anything can happen. But yeah, that's the thing that you can sort of enjoy the Europa League. The Premier League is just, it's been such a stress. Like v Burnley on Sunday was just an absolute nightmare. Knowing it's a game you should win, being 1-0 down at half time and playing like absolute idiots against a really, not a good team. and then we turn it round, and you're on the floor, and suddenly everything feels brilliant. Gibbs White scores a hat trick, and that's just the mental aspect of this season has probably been the most taxing since we got promoted, I think.
Is the new manager the key for the recent upturn in form then, is he? I mean, you mentioned before 4 managers in a season. I've got to admit, when I saw you were appointing the guy who Wolves had got rid of, I was thinking, oh, that doesn't really, tickle your taste buds particularly. But yeah, form's improved. So is it all down to him?
Yeah, in part, yeah, I think so. So I think how I and we would read it on our podcast is Ange was just the wrong appointment at the wrong time. But actually, if you give him he's probably a good manager in the right set of circumstances, but it was just awful for Forest. Dyche came in and did quite well initially, but then, I mean, some fans really liked him. Some fans absolutely can't stand him, but now he's gone, the way he went about it and his interviews and stuff like that. So there's a big divide about whether he would have kept us up or not. And what Pereira's done, I think, is kind of united the fans, brought a bit of a feel-good factor into the dressing room and the fan base. I just don't think it's any kind of secret that some of the players didn't seem to have much time for Dyche and his tactics by the end, the good players who were kind of felt underutilised. So Pereira's rallied them round. And then I think if you look at some of the best players, they've really refound their form, stepped up. So obviously Gibbs White's at the head of that list. Elliot Anderson, who you probably won't have much love for as a Newcastle boy, he's been really, really good. Chris Wood's come back at a good time. And Ola Aina's come back from injury. We had a lot of the players who'd done so well last year. So once they found a bit of form, I think we felt that things could be all right, but we just weren't scoring goals. But then Gibbs White seems to decide he's going to answer that problem on his own. So yeah, there's a combination of things, but Pereira's done really well, certainly.
Yeah, I guess it helps when you've got top class players, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes a
Gibbs White
difference,
is genuinely top class. So if he decides to turn it on, maybe for the next 5 or 6 games that you've got left, then yeah, you're gonna have a good chance of doing well on all fronts, really. But is he who you would say is the main man in that team right now?
Yeah, right now, definitely. Yeah, I think Elliot Anderson was the man at the start of the season, and he still leads loads of stat metrics for midfielders in Europe, not just the Premier League. So he's been really good. Nico Williams has been really consistent. Even though he's our left back, he's one of our best attacking assets. But yeah, Gibbs White's just been unbelievable. I know it was only Burnley, without trying to be disrespectful to them, but the way he grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck, and if we'd lost that game, then this conversation and the conversations we've been having all week would have felt really different, because we'd have been right on the back foot and still conscious that we could be again. But yeah, Gibbs White's been brilliant. Maybe not being in the England squad has been a factor as well to try and prove a point to Tuchel. But yeah, as you say, I think he's a top class Premier League midfielder. 12 goals is brilliant for a club that's struggling.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. And it's something when you can look to even your bench or your starting 11 and go, we can rely on those players. I mean, Anderson and Gibbs White, let's say you did go down, which obviously you are not probably wanting to think about right now, but if you did go down, they would be 2 players who just about anybody in the Premier League would be happy to take off your hands, right? So is there a feeling that this squad's underperformed, like big style, considering how well you did last year in the quality you've got?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really not sure to how much degree they underperformed, because we really overperformed last season. So probably we're like a 13th place team. I think we sold Elanga to Newcastle for pretty good money, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a good wedge for him, I think, but we didn't use it particularly well. I think Dan Ndoye was supposed to be the man. He'd done really well in Italy for Bologna, but he's not settled. So then that was a big hole in our team, because I know Elanga struggled at Newcastle, but the way we played on the break and with his pace, he really fitted, and so that created a problem. But yeah, I think they've underperformed. It's a difficult environment with 4 managers in a season. We think of Sunderland's struggles of off the field problems and changing managers, and I think it's the same at any club. And you look like we're recording today, and Chelsea are an absolute basket case. If things are wrong off the field, they're not going to be right on the field. But I think with Pereira coming in, Edu, who was the global sporting director, whatever the title was, he's been sidelined. And since he's gone as well, out of the picture, I think things seem to have settled down, and it feels like a better environment for the players and the fans, and everyone feels like they're pulling in the same direction again, which I think is big when you look at like Spurs or sort of. I know Spurs look a bit better under De Zerbi, and West Ham look a bit better, but having a United fan base is quite big at the bottom of the table, I think. So yeah, it feels a bit better right now.
I think when we spoke before, you've talked about this where the fans almost forgive some of the decisions Marinakis has made because he's been so successful. He's delivered Premier League football. He's delivered European football, and you can almost forgive some of the things that us being neutrals and the national media take the piss. Really, they see him doing things, and they do laugh about him. Is that still the case, even though you've had a bit of a tumultuous season, given he's hired 4 managers? Is it still the case that the fan base are behind him as well?
Yeah, I think so. As long as we don't go down, it'd be really interesting to see what the reaction is of people if we go down, because he's obviously made big mistakes this season. Appointing Postecoglou was, I think, the biggest mistake he's made since he's been here. So yeah, that was the only time his popularity has waned. But I think if you look at where we were to where we are, we've had under Marinakis, and it's not all because of him, obviously, but we've gone from the bottom of the Championship, which he was still owner at that point, but we were in the Premier League. We've had a League Cup semi-final, an FA Cup semi-final, a Europa League semi-final. We've bridged that gap. It's so hard to go from the Championship to Premier League. You look at how Burnley have struggled, Leeds have been a bit yo-yo. You've got to have incredible recruitment, and Sunderland have cracked it this year. But most clubs that go up come straight back down, and Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth are really the only 3 teams that have come up as a unit and stayed up. And I know we do. Nothing Marinakis does is traditional, like signing 30 players when you get promoted and standing on the steps of the Market Square, the big square in the city, and saying, yeah, we got promoted, but now we want to qualify for Europe. I mean, all that stuff sounded crazy at the time, but we have done it, and we kept Morgan Gibbs-White in the craziest way with him pictured next to him, and people were kind of laughing at the photo of him with Gibbs-White in Portugal after we kept him. We were commenting on it on our podcast as well, but we are in a much better place, and he's an ambitious owner. I think if you had an owner that is ultra ambitious for your club, will throw every penny that he can at it and has invested off the field, then I think fans will overlook most of the craziness of being on the pitch berating a manager, which I didn't like. He got banned for spitting on the floor near a ref for 5 games, which I didn't like either. And our fans don't, but they'll overlook it, I think. I think that's the stance of our fans.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to overlook when you've had so many years outside the Premier League.
Yeah, when you've gone down to League One, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're potentially like a year or 2 behind you at the minute, but if Sunderland could manage to get into Europe, it would just be the most unbelievable thing. I know, obviously, Forest 2-time European champions, so but for a lot of fans, and I would say this is the same with Sunderland fans. For a lot of Forest fans, they wouldn't have been alive when you were playing in European competitions. That for a lot of the fans now, this will be the first time they've seen the club achieve any level of success. So, is it how have you seen the expectations shift in the fan base? Because I think that's something that I'm interested to see what happens with our fans. We've had such a good season, and let's say we do get into Europe. Is it something your fans have really managed to get their head around, the fact that, right, okay, we're now in Europe? Are the expectations through the roof, or is it a case of, bloody hell, how are we back in this position? This is amazing. Where are people at generally?
Probably a bit of both, I think. Excuse me. I think the people who've been fortunate to go or to one or more of the away days, it's the experience of a lifetime. I went to Seville when we played Betis for our first one. It's unbelievable experience. So the fans are still in that sense, wow, I can't believe it. I think the thing that I've noticed, the longer you're in the Premier League, is, especially in the grounds, the first season we came up and the second season, mostly the atmosphere was unbelievable. And I think I've seen that at Sunderland and Leeds, and it does wane, not when you're playing a Liverpool at home or an Arsenal at home, but when you're playing a Fulham at home or a Bournemouth and things like that, there is that kind of expectation, even though they're a good mid-table team, like, oh, we should get a result here, or that kind of thing. But I think our fans are pretty level-headed, I would say. They're not like demanding that we win the Europa League. No one, I think the expectation or her hope at the start of the season was kind of minimum quarterfinals good, semi-finals really good, and anything beyond that's great. But yeah, I think we tried to stay pretty level-headed. I think certainly on our podcast, we're always conscious that you're one bad season away from disaster or a couple of bad transfer windows away. And even though is this season 4 for us in the Premier League, I don't think you're established unless you're one of the big six, but Spurs are going to belie that myth as well, aren't they, potentially? So yeah, always try not to get too carried away and just enjoy the ride. And I think our fans are pretty good at that.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Spurs there. That was something I wanted to come on to, because obviously the teams you're in the battle with down there, it looks like, I know Leeds are only 4 points ahead and you've got the game. I see the 4 points ahead. They're 4 points ahead as we record because they're playing at the minute. But they're not too far ahead of Forest at the minute. But I think Leeds are probably safe. So you're looking at yourselves, West Ham and Spurs to take that 18th place spot. As it stands, like Tottenham are 5 points behind you. So you've got a bit of a cushion, but a couple of bad results and that can all change, right? And you mentioned before, Spurs, they were a little better in the last outing. I mean, against us, they were tragic. That was his first game. And I couldn't believe how bad they were. They just had nothing about them. But they did put up a little more fight and obviously conceded a late goal, didn't they? At the weekend. But what are you thinking about the run-in? Like, are you confident of staying up, or is that a difficult thing to kind of say, given you're still very much in the mix?
I think I'm confident, ultimately confident, but conscious that we have a bad result. And like this weekend's the perfect example. There's every chance that we can lose to Sunderland. No one will be surprised if we do. Spurs should beat Wolves, and then that's 2 points. And then you're only one more result away. I think after that we've got Chelsea away, which could be anything. And I can't remember who they've got. Villa away. So yeah, the gap is big, but it can close quickly. I think if Spurs don't beat Wolves, I just find it really hard to think that they'll stay up, because psychologically they've got to win that game. But there's a lot of pressure on them, and surely Wolves are going to front up. But our fixtures are tough. Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, United away, Bournemouth at home. I'm not expecting us to get a ton of points, but I'm not expecting Spurs to get loads either. And West Ham have got. You get these etched into your brain now. Everton at home, Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, and then Leeds at home. I don't think they're going to get.
Probably the toughest run, isn't it?
That is a really tough run. The next 3 are really hard. So, yeah, I think if we can get 4 more points, if we went down with 40 points, I'd be pretty surprised.
Sunderland were the first team to ever go down with 40 points, by the way.
Oh,
so
sorry.
We're talking to a fan base who has lived it. Yeah, that was in 1997. When it was the first time a team had ever gone down with 40 points. But yeah, it is possible. It is weird though, isn't it? When you look at how bad the promoted teams were last season and how basically Spurs and Man U occupied them 2 spots above the bottom 3. And even though they were tragic, they didn't even have a fight against relegation because the teams below them were so poor. Whereas now it's just, it feels like the league is a little bit more even. And I mean, you're seeing it now with the results. Even Wolves went on a stretch, didn't they, where they picked up some decent results despite being dead and buried. I think it's proof anybody can beat anybody in this league, and you probably know that more than anyone. Given Forest have lost 15 times this season already. You probably have gone into games where you've felt, oh, I think we should win today, and then you've just been absolutely turned over by a team who you're just like, how that happened to us against Fulham. Like Fulham
happened to us at home to Sunderland when there was nothing in the game, and I think Alderate scored a free kick, and it's like, we were poor that day, and if you play poorly now, you're going to get beat. I mean, I should be really annoyed at Sunderland and Leeds for making it harder to stay in the Premier League, because the last couple of years we've had a points deduction and still not really been threatened too much. But yeah, it is a really competitive league, isn't it? I think Chelsea is 7th and they've lost 11 games or something, 12 games, ridiculous. So That clutch
12,
of teams in the middle, they're so from Palace up to Chelsea. There's not much between them, and I don't think there's a huge amount between us and those teams. We just had a really nightmarish stretch, but I think we're decent. I just don't know if we're. I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking forward to Sunday. I'm not stressed about it, but I'm not going there expecting us to win. I think a draw is a really good result for us if we can get a point at Stadium Light at the weekend for sure. Friday, sorry, not Sunday. I'm used to playing Sunday. Friday night.
That's that Chinese starting to repeat on you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll shoot for a quick break, and then when we come back, we will chat all about the match. See you soon. And welcome back to Howie the podcast. And as I said just before the break, we'll get into the game now. I think it's an important one for both teams, right, Matt? We've got a challenge ahead of us. I mean, I'm looking at the table, anywhere from sort of 6 down to, well, you said before, Palace in 13th, really. You know, there's not many points separating those teams. But for Sunderland, we're on 46. We're looking up the table. If we can win this one, that will put us level on points, at least temporarily, with Chelsea or Bournemouth. But it puts us right up there with those teams. And, you know, qualification for Europe could go down to 9th this season. So there's lots on the table for us. But then for yourselves, obviously, we've talked about it already, you know, the fact that you're trying to stave off relegation. That makes this, I think, one of the biggest games of the weekend. It's a massive, massive game to kick things off. But with it being a Friday, whoever does get the upper hand, if somebody gets the upper hand in this game, puts the pressure right back on everybody else. So it just has that feel of a big game, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, if we were to win, then we'd be 8 points ahead of Spurs, who, like I was saying, they'd have so much pressure on that Wolves game. Even a point, you know, would be 6 points. That's big at this stage of the season. We you know, 4 games to play for us. So yeah, if we can get a result, it's massive. And then if you can get a result, obviously it pushes you so much into that mix. The difficulty for Sunderland is, are you 11th or something like that?
Yeah, as we are.
So yeah, so you've got to better the results of 3 or 4 other clubs. So yeah, you've probably still, I'd say you're probably still the underdogs. But if you win this, then you're not going to be the underdogs for long, are you? You get a couple more results, and then you'll be everyone will be looking at you.
Well, then we followed that up with a game with Wolves. So
yeah, exactly.
And then the last game of the season is Chelsea, and they could. We've still got Chelsea and Everton left to play, and they would probably be 6 pointers, really, because we're going to all be on somewhere around the same when it comes to playing those games. So
and it doesn't matter if that Chelsea game's home or away, because their fans hate the players at the moment. I don't know what it'll be like by then, and at home you're great. So yeah, you've got massive opportunity.
Yeah, but like I say, it's a big game for both teams, but I think it's just a massive. If either team wins this game, it's a massive advantage going into the weekend. But I think that's important to note. We both feel like we've got a bit of a momentum. I know we lost to Villa at the weekend, but we have won, a fair few games recently, and we took Villa right. I mean, we could have won that game at 3s each. We had a golden chance to win it. Then 30 seconds later, they go down in stoppage time and win the game. But it shows we're in a good place mentally. You know, Forest form would say puts them in a good place mentally. But you know, do you fear the drop necessarily? Like, would losing this game proper put you down in the dumps if you did lose to Sunderland?
Only if West Ham and Spurs win. I think if that happens, if one of them or both of them drop points, then I'd view it as another game ticked off. I think we're at that stage of the season where it's just about matching those teams. But the Burnley game was the one we had to win psychologically. Like you referenced that Wolves game, you'll feel like, oh, we've got to win that game. I don't look at Sunderland away as one like that. I think that right now I feel like Sunderland away is harder than Chelsea away and Newcastle at home. So of our next 3 games, I feel like this is the hardest one, subject to their form not changing. So if we can get something, then no, I wouldn't. If we do lose the game, it's not a disaster. It's just that mentality of what the other teams do and the stress of it. And we have built some good momentum, like you say. I think we're 7 unbeaten in all competitions. So you just want to keep building, as Pereira says, keep fighting and try and get something from every game. And if we can just eke out a few draws and 1 win, then we'd be in a great position. You
mentioned before about Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White being important players. I noticed Callum Hudson-Odoi's picked up an injury, hasn't he, which is going to rule him out for the rest of the season. Is that something we should view as good news? Like, I don't know how he's really done this season, but I've always thought he's a decent enough player.
Yeah, he's not had a great season, but he's been our most consistent winger. He's the guy that you rely on, the experienced one. He's good at getting you up the pitch. He'll keep the ball and things like. He just hasn't scored as many goals as you would hope this season. But yeah, it's a blow. He's our best winger. I think what Pereira might do is if Murillo's fit, go to a back three, because he can do that with Jaya Cunha, a young defender's come in and done really well. Or he could just play what he did against Burnley second half and either play Gibbs White out wide or play Nicolas Dominguez as he's a central midfielder. He can play out wide and tuck in and add an extra man in midfield. So I think that's what he'll just play. What I imagine Amari Hutchinson will be the only out-and-out winger who starts now, because our other wingers, Dan Ndoye's missed the last game to injury. Dylan Bakwa is struggling so much. For a kid who you spent 30 million quid on, he's really just not made the impact that you wanted. So, yeah, I think he'll just do something different, what he did against Burnley worked really well when we only had one winger on the pitch. So it's bad, but it's not a disaster, I would say.
You mentioned Chris Wood being back as well. I imagine that's a big boost. He's been quite reliable, hasn't he, over the last few years for you in the top flight?
Yeah, I mean, he does look, because he's missed so many games, he's looked a bit rusty, but what he has done, you can see straight away, is his movement's good and he occupies defenders and he's freed up space for other players. So Gibbs White being the prime example, he's made space for other players to attack. And I think Chris Wood will get a goal or two before the end of the season, and he's taken the pressure off Igor Jesus. But yeah, it's great to have him back. I know he's 35 and he's not the player he was, but where you're in the position the league we're in, you need a Niall Quinn type experienced line leader, and we don't have that without him. So yeah, it is big.
I mean, other than him, then what can we kind of expect? I mean, you've sort of spelled the team out there, but what can we expect in terms of approach? You know, I can imagine Gibbs White, he wants to get on the ball. Anderson will dictate play when he gets on the ball, but away from home, is that something you really do? Do you go away from home and try and get on the ball?
Yeah, a fair bit. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the big thing is Murillo going to be fit? He went off holding his hamstring in the last games, but Pereira said they thought it was minor and it wasn't a tear or anything. But at this stage of the season, you're probably not going to risk him. So if he's out, then it'll be a flat back four with Jaya Cunha playing instead, and he did really well against Burnley. So Aina and Williams, the fullbacks, have done really well. Sangari and Anderson as two, they'll probably both play quite deep and look to just try and control that game and minimise like Granit Xhaka wanting to dictate play and things like that. Anderson might go forwards a bit, and then it'll be Gibbs White trying to create a chance for Chris Wood or Amari Hutchinson playing on the counter. I think, yeah, it will be quite hard to break down. When we went to Spurs, that's how we played. Just try and, frustrate a crowd a bit, get a goal, and then play on the counter. I mean, it's not like revolutionary stuff, but we've got quite good at it under Pereira. I think we got back to what we were under Nuno, and that's worked, to be fair.
Come on, then. What do you reckon's going to happen? What's your gut feeling? I know you said this. You're feeling quite buoyant going into this one, but what's your gut feeling on how this game's going to go?
Well, let me plug my laptop in, and I'll tell you. Hang on.
Just buying yourself some time there. That's what it is.
No, it's just the laptop battery that's absolute rubbish. Gut feeling is that we can like 1-1. I think I was looking at Sunderland's home form. I know you beat Spurs, but I think you'd lost the 3 before without scoring too many. So I think we can hopefully restrict you to the 1 goal, and I think we can get one. Like when I look at your team, I really like Brian Brobby. He's a player we were linked with before. He's that guy that will occupy defenders, pin them, make life difficult. The stuff about Romero is quite funny because I think he was just playing as a striker who was trying to make life difficult for a defender. And
yeah.
Spurs defenders don't seem to like that. So yeah, I like him. Granit Xhaka's like, I was thinking, because I know I was going to be speaking to you, like who's been the best signing of the season? And the only other name I could think of to compete with Xhaka was Ryan Cherky. in terms of the impact they made on their teams. So he's obviously a top player. And then I didn't know much. Loads of the players you signed, I knew so little about, but they come in and done really well. Like Mukiele, Ruffs, the goalkeeper. They just look like good, solid players. So yeah, you're a good, solid team, and I don't think we're not going to go there. And if we scored 2, I'd be surprised. But I think I'd predict 1-1, and I would take 1-1 gladly.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout considering the form you're in. I think maybe there will be Sunderland fans who prior to listening to this didn't really understand just how much Forest have kind of turned a corner in terms of the just getting a bit more assured at the back and a bit more solid and picking up points and even doing well in Europe. And I think a lot of people might just look at the league table and go, we should beat them, but that would be probably a little bit foolish, I think. So, yeah.
It's funny you say that, because we did our post-match show after we beat Burnley, and we were talking about the next game, and I was like, oh, Sunderland players, they've done amazing. They've done everything they wanted in terms of staying in the league. Maybe they'll be a bit on the beach now. And I'd said that, and I didn't realise how condensed the league table was. And then I look at the league table and think, wow, they've actually got a lot to play for. And how motivated a Sunderland player is going to be to go for it. And everything you've said to me and all your fan base makes it sound like they're going to be really believing they can get into Europe. So perhaps some of our fans, not many, will have misconceptions about what we can do against Sunderland. So yeah, I think it's, when you play teams at this stage of the season, you want to play teams with no momentum, almost no matter where they are in the league table, I think. So I've got no fears about playing Chelsea or Newcastle. They're in horrible form, but Sunderland are the team that we're playing that I know you're a bit up and down, but you either seem to win or lose. So yeah, I don't go into this game with like expectations of a win or anything like that, certainly.
Well, we'll see what happens, mate. But I think it would be great if we are playing this fixture out again next season and we're able to do these pods again next season. So thanks very much for joining us. And other than on Friday night, I wish you the very best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. I think we will be. Touch wood, fingers crossed. I think we will be.
I think so too. And thank you to our listeners. We will be back tomorrow with the matchday preview ahead of the game. So make sure you check that out and all of the other pods we've had on the feed this week. We've also got everything building up to the game on rotoreport.spnation.com. So make sure you check that out, and we'll see you tomorrow.